I'm going to talk about player options that I want in DC20. I'll start off with things I'd like in the core rules, and then get into some more long-term desires. Like in the distant year of 2028, when I'm rich and famous, playing DC20 with my beautiful hypothetical wife, what player options would I like to use? This isn't about things I necessarily expect to be added, and it's definitely not things I think need to be added, it's just things I want to be added. Mostly because I think it's cool. And I'll start off by talking about spells, since that's what's being worked on right now. I've thought a lot about this, and I realized that there's only one spell that I actively want to be in the game. I just want a spell that makes an explosion, and I want that spell to be named either Explosion or Explode. No fancy name or anything. The reason I want this spell is because Megumin from Konosuba and Marcel from Delicious in Dungeon both use explosion magic, and I think it's very cool. I know that spells related to explosions will exist. Like in Beta Q&A 45, some possible spells tied to explosions were mentioned, such as a spell where you dash forward then explode, a Fire Nova spell where you explode yourself, and a spell where you shoot a line of fire which explodes, but I don't think any of those are quite what I want. I just want a pure dedicated explosion spell. Like you choose a location you can see and create an AoE explosion there, dealing damage and knockback. Maybe they even crit against structures and mundane objects, or like the Barbarian Flavor feature. Just a cool destructive explosion. Now admittedly, what I just said might end up being very similar to Fireball, but I think the vibes are distinct, and it could easily be made more unique while still having it just be an explosion spell. Maybe the explosion deals both fire and bludgeoning damage. Maybe it's so loud that it can inflict the deafening condition. Maybe you can spend your resources to charge up the explosion for multiple turns to build up its power. Maybe there's a spell enhancement that lets you increase the self knockback so that you can rocket jump with your explosion. There's a lot of different directions it could be taken to make it feel more unique while still just being an explosion spell. But really, the most important thing to remember is that explosions are very cool. And for a broader desire, I want player options related to being lucky. The coach has mentioned how he dislikes the lucky feat in 5e, so I want to see his version of it. It could be tied to advantage instead of rerolling. It could be more limited in uses. It could be completely different and not even be related to rolling somehow. Regardless, I think the fantasy of being lucky is very fun, but right now there aren't really any options for it. Not even halflings have any traits tied to luck, so I'd love to see the luck fantasy get some support. Eventually, it'd even be cool if there were enough options to the point where you can make a character that has luck as their main thing. Let me build Nagito in DC20, it's what the people need. I am the people. Now, I'll talk briefly about what I want from some of the future classes, though I won't be getting too deep into this topic since for the most part, I just want to wait and see how they turn out. For the Elementalist, I want an option which lets you turn into your element, like a Logia from One Piece. I think having it as a class talent would probably make the most sense, but a subclass could work too. For the Summoner or maybe the Tamer, I want the stand user option. Or to put it in TTRPG terms, I want an option which lets you be like the Pathfinder 2e Summoner, since from what I've seen, that's basically just a stand user. And for the Shaman, my mind immediately goes to Shudderwalk. I have a feeling that isn't the best idea though, so instead I suppose I'm fine with whatever, maybe a nice Murloc deck. Wait, what was it? Yeah, right, DC20. Moving on to subclasses I want for some of the core classes. For the Sorcerer, this is an extremely obvious idea, but I want a Demonic subclass. It makes sense to have a Demonic Sorcerer to go with the Angelic Sorcerer, and as an example under Source of Power, it specifically mentions the Sorcerer's magic coming from a lineage of demons, so I'd be shocked if this doesn't end up happening eventually. For the Commander, I want some subclasses that take the flavor in a more unique direction. I've sort of talked about this before, but a Commander could be a coach, a non-magical bard, a teacher, a retainer or servant, a mentor, or 100 other things. Right now you can definitely flavor your commander to be like any of those, especially if you're a paragon, but I'd like to see some less traditional commanders as subclasses. For the Barbarian, I want a more mundane subclass. Right now there's the Elemental Fury, Spirit Guardian, and I believe the third subclass is going to be related to Possession, which is cool. I do like the Barbarian subclasses, but it does feel odd to me that the Barbarian has the most supernatural, magical feeling subclasses out of all the martial classes. I'd sort of expect the opposite, if anything, so I just want something mundane outside of a Paragon Barbarian. An idea I keep thinking about is a subclass based around taking drugs. Seriously, I think this could actually be cool. Off the top of my head, I imagine there'd be several drug options with powerful positive effects which would enhance your rage, but they each come with a negative to balance it out. And if the devs say no to drugs, it could probably be flavored as more of a herbalist type of thing. It could work. But really, I'm fine with whatever, I just want a cool, non-magical, non-supernatural, mundane barbarian subclass in the future. And for the final desire of the video. You probably could have predicted this, but I want dog kobolds as a playable ancestry. I know it's been confirmed that DC20 kobolds are going to be draconic, similar to how they are in 5e, but it could work. I can justify this, hear me out. Kobolds are depicted as being dog-like in enough pieces of media to the point where I think having them alongside draconic kobolds would make a lot of sense. Mechanically, Beastborn does cover a lot of what a canine kobold would be expected to have, but I think they could easily be made made to feel distinct. Beastborn has a lot of general traits to represent the biology of the Beastborn, but with a dedicated Canine Kobold ancestry, the traits could get a lot more specific. There probably would be some amount of redundancy, but I think you could say something similar about Dragon Kobolds, or at least about the other Draconic ancestries. From what I understand, right now we have Dragonborns, which are Draconic humans, but in the future there's going to be Draconic versions of elves, dwarves, halflings, and gnomes, with Draconic gnomes being kobolds. If there can be 5 dragon ancestries, then I definitely don't see an issue with having an animal-based ancestry outside of Beastborn. Of course, I could see people having other issues with them, and there's the question of how they fit into the lore, but I'm very confident all that could be sorted out. By the way, I recently got the Delicious in Dungeon Adventures Bible, so that's why I'm in that Kobold grind set again. I find them to be really interesting, and I think most of my interest is due to the real-life lore behind them. With how them usually being depicted as fully dog-like in Japanese media likely originates from a misunderstanding or a mistranslation of the D&D Monster Manual, which then was popularized by Wrecker of Lados War and Wizardry, leading to dog kobolds becoming a common depiction. If none of that were the case and just a few different pieces of fantasy media have their own unique dog races with original names, I don't think I'd care. It's not like I'm thinking, wait a minute, Goofy is from a race of humanoid dogs? No way! No way, this needs to be its own ancestry right now. We need a duck ancestry too. Add this to the game! For the average animal race, Beastborn is definitely enough, but since Canine Kobolds have a history across so many pieces of fantasy media, I think they're worthy of being their own ancestry. DC20 team, if you need help making a Kobold ancestry, please get in contact with me. I'll work for free. Unless you're willing to pay me, in which case my starting rate is $100,000. I need to get rich by 2028 somehow. But that's all for now. Of course there are other things I like in DC20, and if I had made this video a month or 2 from now, it'd probably be very different. But at this point in time, I'm in my drug and dog era. Also, if you haven't already seen it, I did make a homebrew Canine Kobold ancestry video. I think I did a solid job with it. Besides locking bites, I'll have to rework that someday. But yeah, watch that if you haven't. And if for whatever reason you dislike the direction I took it, the Canine Kobold agenda remains strong even without me. It can work. Okay, bye.